You're tuned in to Dynamics Talk, hosted by the one and only Dion Taylor.
Hey guys, Dion Taylor here. So today I was building a custom agent inside of Copilot Studio, and I wanted to use Dataverse knowledge to reason over some records and then use the Dataverse connector to create a new record if necessary. Now, the problem that I was facing is that the new record actually needed to automatically populate 2 lookup columns. And I tried for a couple of hours. I could not get it to work. And then my coworker Sahib actually helped me figure out how to do that. So I figured I shared that information with you. I'm going to go over exactly everything I did to build this agent. Let's go ahead and take a look. Now, let me first give you the scenario here, right? So I have my restaurant inventory tracker app, right? And we have several tables in this app. We have supplier products that is tied to my supplier table, my product table, right? This is really showing you each of the suppliers, the different products they offer, the unit prices for those products, the delivery fee, and the delivery times. What I want the agent to do is take a look at the inventory that we have, right? So you can see here that we have 35 chicken breasts, the reorder point is 30, and the max stock level is 250 of those chicken breasts. So when I'm in here, I want to be able to ask my Copilot, who is the best supplier to order the product, in this particular case, chicken breast from, right? So it's going to look at unit price, delivery fee, and delivery time, and then come up with the best option for me to order from. Now, again, normally you could have this integrated with other systems that pushes this data here into this table, right? And this data changes a lot, right? The unit price, the delivery fee, the delivery time, right? We probably see that update a lot. So that's why we might want to use an agent for that. Obviously, you could also configure the agent to take a look at the inventory, and then once it gets to the reorder point, to then go through the same steps. But anyways, so what I wanted to do is, again, I wanted to first look at those supplier products, give me the best option possible, and then I wanted to ask the user if the user wants to create a purchase order. Now, when we're looking here at the purchase orders, if the purchase order is created, when it's created, obviously it needs to be tied to a supplier. I also added a product in here as well. Usually that would be a separate table. I understand that, but I just kept it simple for this particular example. So what I've done is I've actually built an agent in Copilot Studio that does all of those things. And the only 2 things that I'm using, or 3 things actually that I'm using, I'm first using knowledge to go and look at the supplier products, right? And give me the best option available. Then it's going to ask me, do you want to create a purchase order? And if I say yes, it's asking me about the quantity, and then it's going to generate that purchase order. So let's take a look at how that works. So here we are in Copilot Studio looking at my inventory agent, and I'm going to ask it, hey, check the best supplier to buy the chicken breast from. And let's see what it comes back with. So it's using my Dataverse knowledge search, and it's now searching through that table. And as you can see, it's now coming up with Beta Traders, which is indeed the cheapest one, has the shortest delivery time and the lowest delivery fee. So that was, again, just coming up with the knowledge, right? And then giving me that response based on what it found in that particular table. You can also see here, it's now basically asking me, hey, do you want to create a purchase order? And if you do, please provide the quantity that you want to order of those chicken breasts. Okay, so I'm going to say yes. And let's just do 25, right? I'm going to go ahead and say that. And what it's going to do now is it's going to use 2 of my tools. I actually thought I was able to just create a connector tool, a Dataverse connector tool here in my agent, and that would actually work. That would then populate those GUIDs of the product and the supplier, but that actually didn't work. And that's why I had to build this get product ID and supplier ID. Then it gathers all of that data, right? I told it 25, so it's putting into 25. And then the unit price, it remembered that because I told it to, right? And 8 times 25 is $200, and it created that PO 1013. Let's just go ahead and take a look at that. Here we go. Let's see. Beta traders, $8, $4, 2 days. So that's looking pretty good. Go to our purchase orders, and let me just make sure we refresh. Yep, here it is. penetrators, chicken breasts, $8 unit price, and a quantity of 25 with a total of $200, right? Pretty cool stuff, right? So now let me tell you how I actually built this agent and some of the problems I was encountering as well. So here we're back in the agent, and the first thing that I did is I created the knowledge here for Dataverse, and you can do that by just clicking on Add Knowledge, and then clicking on Dataverse, and then selecting the tables. And I just wanted it to look through all of these different tables, not all of them, but some of these tables over here. So once you select those tables, then you can just click here on Add to Agent. And that's exactly what I did here. That's all I did, right? Product, purchase order, supplier, supplier product. That is it. And you can see here, all of this is automatically populated. So that's all you have to do, right? And it actually worked pretty good, right? You can see here what it brought back to me. Now, you also saw that it actually, when we were looking at that activity, when we were following that activity, let's just go back here, that after getting the answer of who the best supplier is for those chicken breasts, it actually went in and got the product ID and supplier ID before it created that new purchase order. Well, the reason for that is when it's creating the new purchase order, you can see here that I actually need to enter this information here, not just a GUID of the product that we were looking at, which is the chicken breasts. It also needs the unique ID, right? That GUID of the RSM suppliers. But guess what? If I would have just plugged in this GUID over here, it would have given me an error because I need to do the same thing that we need to do in our Power Automate flows when we're actually setting a lookup field. We need to put the table name in here. Well, actually, the duplication of that, right? One supplier, multiple suppliers. So I need to grab that table name, plural, right? And then in parentheses, I'm going to put this unique ID of this particular supplier. And then another issue that I was struggling with is that it just kept creating this purchase order by making up a quantity, right? So I'm going to show you how I actually got around all of those different things here. So the first thing that I did after I created that knowledge is I actually created this connector. It says here, create a new purchase order, right? So the way that you can add this connector is by just clicking add a tool. And you can see here, I want to do a connector, but it's also on the featured page is this guy. I'm going to select Dataverse, and then I selected add a new row to selected environment. So once it has the connection over here, you can then click on add and configure. And I'm just going to click on that just so you can see what that screen looks like. Let's just give it a second here. Okay, so then it opens this particular screen. Now let me go back to the other one I already have, which is create new purchase order. So basically the way that I've set this up is, first of all, I changed the name, but importantly is that this needs to be name, is that I actually changed the description because this is what your agent will look at to understand what exactly it does, right? So I wanted to, it can use this tool to create a new purchase order row in Dataverse, and I wanted to populate the product field with the related product name from the previously selected best supplier product. I'm not sure why I put that in here because I'm not putting in anything in regards to the supplier, but let's just go ahead and look at the input. So what you start with is just two inputs, environment and table name. And by default, this is set to dynamically fill with AI. Now, we don't want the agent to pick which environment it's going to create this record in. So I selected here my custom value, and then I went in here and selected the environment I want it to create that record in, right? Then the next thing that I did is same thing with the table name. I wanted to create this record, right? I want the record to be a purchase order. So in here, you're just going to search for, in this particular case, purchase orders, right? So that's what you're seeing over here. Let's just try this again. Purchase orders. There you go. All right. Then what I ended up doing is I clicked on add input to add the products, suppliers, quantity, and unit price fields. Just so you can see here, it's all in this list. You can just search for the particular input that you want, right? Which is a column on that purchase order table. And I left all of them to dynamically fill with AI. You do have to click on customize though, because again, you want to put in a description, right? So that we know what's supposed to go there. So my product GUID goes in there, my supplier GUID goes in there, and then my quantity, always ask the user what the quantity should be. Never fill this value by yourself. Now, this didn't really do me any good. So I could have also just said, this is the quantity of products or whatever you want to put in there, right? And then lastly, we have the unit price. This is the unit price of the product, right? That the agent recommended. So that's why I put that in here. And then anything below here, I did not touch that at all. So this is pretty simple to set up as well. Now, again, if I would just run this by myself, right, it would not get that GUID because in the knowledge, it's actually not giving you the GUID of the product or the supplier table, right, which I was not aware of, but apparently it's not doing that. So you have to go in, and I'm going to, again, go to tools, and you have to create a agent flow. I'm actually going to get rid of this guy, right? Just wanted to show you what that looked like. So let's just go ahead and take a look at that. So this is my agent flow. And as you can see here, I have a description on here. I have a name on here. And then we have the agent flow itself. So the way that this works, when you're actually creating this, it will take you to this screen. This is my agent flow, and it will take you to the designer. But I'm going to show you in a second. Let's just go back here real quick. Let's go back to the agents. Here's my inventory agent. I'm going to go to tools. And I am going to click add a tool. And then you're going to say new tool. And I'm going to click here on agent flow. So this is what I ended up doing. As you can see, it takes you directly to the designer. So I'm going to go back to the agent so I can walk you through that agent flow. All right, let's just go ahead and open that up. Here we go, designer. Okay, let me give it a second while this loads. So when you create a new agent flow, you will only see this guy when an agent calls a flow and then respond to the agent, which you all have to configure. So the first thing I did is I added this input, right, which is a text input, just like this. And then I entered product name, and then here I entered name of the product because that's what we're looking for. Pretty simple, right? Then my next step was a listing of rows because again, what I want to do is I want to look through my products and then I want to filter all of those products by the product name. This is actually a product table, and here is my name column. I'm only selecting this one column here because I really don't need anything else. And then we're going to say the name, right? The RSM name. So the name of the product equals the product name. That's that first one that we saw over there. And you can just go ahead and type this out. And if you want to put the product name in here, you're going to go ahead and click over here. And this is when an agent calls a flow, product name, right? That's what we want to do there. Make sure you don't forget about those single quotes there, right? Because sometimes those are kind of hard to miss. Now, I should only get back one row count, right? This should only be one product with that name in my database. Now, since this is a list row action, usually you get more than one. You're still going to get that array back, right? So this is why I did a compose action. So I clicked here, I did data operation, and then I clicked here on compose. And that then opens up this input window. What I ended up doing is I changed the name to compose product ID so that I know what type of information is in here, right? This is basically that GUID of that product, right? So what I'm doing here is I just want that first output of that list row actions. And you can see here, it says from the body value, give me the product ID. That's what actually has that unique ID, that GUID of that product in there. So that's all I'm doing. So now I have my product ID over here. Then I did the same thing over here. Again, I'm now going to list the suppliers. And here we're looking for supplier name, RSM supplier ID. It doesn't really matter that much because, right, I'm still getting that back. The supplier name needs to equal whatever that supplier name was, right? So the same thing, we went and typed this up. We went to this little guy over here. And when the agent calls the flow, the supplier name that's entered, right? We want to make sure that my supplier name in the database is actually equal to that supplier name. And then again, we're just getting one back. We're going to do the same thing. If I click on this, right, we now see the same thing. First outputs the name of this action previously is list rows 1. And then the supplier ID is that unique GUID, that ID, that unique ID, right? And here you can see that it says list rows 1, and that's why we are using that. Now, here's the important part, the respond to the agent, because again, like I said earlier, if I just feed back those GUIDs that are now in the compose steps, it's not going to work. I tried that. It didn't work. Because remember, we have to put in front of that GUID. I, first of all, have to put that, right, that table name, and then obviously table name plural. Then I have to do open parenthesis. Then I'm going to put my output over there, right? Which we can do again by just clicking on here. And here is that output. This one is from the supplier ID. So I probably want this one, which I already have in there. And then I want a closing bracket. And I'm going to tell the agent, this is the GUID of the product row. I do the same thing with the supplier GUID, right? That's what it says over here. You just move this to the side. This is the GUID of the supplier row. RSM underscore suppliers, again, plural name of my table, and I'm going to put those outputs in there. And that is it. Then if you go to the overview, let's just go ahead. You can go ahead and edit that and make sure that you name your agent flow and you put in a description in there as well. So again, you can just do that by clicking edit. That allows you to make updates to that agent flow name and the description. Now let's go back to the agent, because after you're done with that, you still need to find and add the tool, right? You just created it, but that's not going to bring it inside here. So you're going to click add a tool, and this is a flow, and here it is. So you will click on this, and then you will do add to agents or add and configure, right? Now I already have this in here, so I'm not going to do this. But I am going to open this up to kind of show you how this was configured. Because again, right, we want to make sure the name is in there. We want to make sure the description is in there. And then there's really nothing else we have to do. But I want to show you that what we just entered in that agent flow, as you can see, will also be viewable from here as well. So if you want to change that description or something, you can do that from here as well. But right now it's just bringing in whatever I got, right, from that agent flow. And then once you've done that, this is now when I'm actually going to put the instructions in there. So now I'm going to tell it, okay, so you are in charge of evaluating the best product from the supplier product table. You evaluate the best choice based on unit price, delivery time, and delivery fees, which are stored in the supplier product table. You will always choose a supplier product that has the best combination of unit price, low delivery fee, and low delivery time. Once you've chosen the best supplier product, let the user know what you've chosen and why, and then ask if the user wants you to create a purchase order or not. We saw that, right? We saw it do that, right? So let's do that one more time so we can kind of run through that scenario again while we're looking at those instructions, right? Let's just go back here to my overview, right? Once you've chosen by supplier, let the user know what you've chosen and why, and then ask if the user wants you to create a purchase order or not. So it's giving me the option, and then it's asking me, do you want me to create a purchase order? If so, please provide the quantity that you need. Let's see what it does, right? Always ask for the quantity they want for the purchase order. So it's very important to put that in the instructions. Then, once you have that, generate a new purchase order by I went too fast, right? If they want you to create a purchase order, then use this particular guy, right? That's that flow that I created. So the way that you can actually tell it to use a particular tool, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to use this. I'm going to type here my slash, and this is going to allow me to set a tool. So I'm going to say, use the get product ID and supplier tool to get that GUID and supplier GUID. I'm just going to go ahead and cancel this. Yeah, discard, right? To get that GUID and supplier GUID from the supplier product row you chose. Always ask for the quantity they want for the purchase order, and then generate a new purchase order by using, right, here we go. Here we have the other tool, which is that Dataverse connector. Make sure you use the product GUID and supplier GUID that you got from the get product ID and supplier ID tool when creating the PO. provide the purchase order details to the user in a bulleted list. We saw I do that, right? So again, I'm going to say, yes, I want it to actually create a purchase order. I'm not going to give it the quantity, because if I'm not giving it the quantity, it should ask me again. Yeah, there we go. Please provide the quantity you would like to order for the chicken breasts. I'm going to say, let's just do 55, right? Sounds good. So I'm going to say 55. And we can see here that it's getting, oh, it already went past it. But you can see here now that, again, it has been created successfully. Let's just go back here and see what it did. These are those outputs, right? This is what I kind of hard coded on that output. And then it's bringing in my, my product based on the name that we have over here, chicken breast, and the supplier, same thing. Then it created a purchase order by linking the products using what we got, right, from that flow, from the agent flow, and then also for the supplier. And then it also now entered my quantity that I gave it, right? I said 55 guys, and then I wanted it to show that to me here in a bulleted list. That's what we said. Let's go back one more time. And that is it. So hopefully some of the things that I showed you in this video today will be helpful, and you will be able to use that when you are building your own custom agents. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit the like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe so that you'll never miss another video ever again. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time.